What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 22 Diego College Football Show. And I'm excited for this one. I'm going to start with a long preview of this Seahawks Rams game. I'm driving up from San Diego to LA, going to be there. Super excited for that. Dove into the stats for a bunch of stuff for this game because, it's the biggest game of the year. It's the biggest Seahawks game in multiple years, just based on the sheer implications. This game is for who's kind of the consensus number one team in the league. Seahawks have finally started to get some national recognition, something that they haven't gotten in many years, like a national agreement. Like, this team is one of the top 5 best teams in the league and a genuine Super Bowl contender. So we're just going to get right into that. These teams are both sitting at 7-2. Rams are 3-1 at home. The Seahawks are 4-0 on the road. Only lost one road game under Mike McDonald. Seahawks are 4-2 in the conference. Rams are 2-2. Seahawks are 2-1 in the division. Rams are 1-1. Seahawks have a 103-point differential. Rams have a 98. They've both won 4 in a row. Games in LA. And quite simply, it's the battle of two of the, in my opinion, the two best teams in the league. I think the winner of this game is the best team in football, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. These teams are both. The Seahawks are the number one team in DVOA. I believe the last time that happened was the 2015 season for a very brief time during it. But they're the number one DVO team, which means overall they're just the best team in the league according to this stat. They are the top 2 ranked passing teams on PFF. The Rams are rated out of 92. The Seahawks are rated out as a 91. Both teams ranking the top 5 defensive points allowed. The Rams are sitting at 17. The Seahawks are sitting at 19. The 2 quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold, both in the MVP candidacy. I think the winner of this game kind of cements himself as the MVP of the first half of the season, are the top 2 in air yards per attempt. They're sitting at 9.6 and 9.1 respectively. And this is 2 good offensive lines put to the test as well. These 2 teams quarterbacks are both in the top 5 in least pressured rates. Sam Darnold sitting at 27%. Matthew Stafford sitting at 27.8. Darnold sitting at 27.3, so slightly better. But kind of on that note, these are 2 great defenses, obviously. But the Rams, in that stacked D-line, you think of Jared Verse, think of Braden Fisk. They've struggled to get pressure recently. In these last 3 games, they haven't amassed a 33% pressure rate in any of them. They had 16 pressures and 0 sacks against the 49ers last week. In a game with a lot of offensive play, they had 0 sacks. Going back to the week before that, let me just check that right now. They struggled. I know the pressure rate was low, but I'm trying to find an exact number for the sacks. While I look for that, just on the other end, the Seahawks have had a vastly different measure of that. They have got a lot of their success has come from pressuring the quarterback. In that game against the Commanders, they were all over Jaden Daniels. They had, let me see if I can find it. They had that was a game that it seemed like everyone on the team had a pressure. And in the game last week against the Cardinals, 2 strip sacks, forced the turnovers to get after Jacoby Brissett and force those 2 defensive touchdowns. And I haven't remembered something that happened in years. You got arguably 2 of the top 5 receivers in football. They were both kind of on the same pace before Puka got hurt in JSN and Puka Nacua. JSN's on pace to break Calvin Johnson's record. It's a titanic matchup. And I think, honestly, it's a bit of a shame that it isn't in prime time. I think it's pretty frustrating that it isn't, because this is, you look at Monday Night Football. I understand why it wasn't flexed to Sunday night, because you have the Lions and the Eagles. That's 2 good teams. That's probably a bigger market in Philly, and in Detroit, it's a pretty big market as well. Eagles are coming off a big win against the Packers, but the Monday Night Football game, it's the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Dallas Cowboys, and you can flex that game. That game is allowed to be flexed, and they decided not to, which I understand. It's Dallas and it's Vegas, but you have a matchup of 2 of the best teams in the NFC. That deserves to be watched, and it's a nationally broadcasted game, but just frustrating that it isn't getting the true spotlight it deserves. It's not even the Fox's number 1 crew. It's Greg Olsen, Kevin Burkhardt. Doesn't really affect me because I'm going to be at the game, but just a little frustrating on that sense. And I think it's honestly like still an eye-opening matchup for the national public because it feels like constantly it's just like people are like the Seahawks are actually a good team. If you've watched, they have been, but no one really recognizes anything they do until they get to 7-2. It's not like a team that you're buying the hype when they're low, when they are 4-2 and they beat the Jaguars, or they're 3-1 after they beat the Cardinals, or even after that the Bucks game. It was like, oh, good game for them, but the Bucks came out with it. Sam Darnold wasn't clutch. Sam Darnold recently in the last few years has done more game-winning drives than Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford has put the ball in harm's way just based on turnover-worthy throws more than Sam Darnold. So it's just all these consensus narratives that I feel like are being built up because Sam Darnold had 2 bad games. I mean, they were the 2 biggest games of the year last year, but a bad game in the playoff game when they lost where he was pressured an insane amount of times. If you get sacked 9 times, not many quarterbacks can win that game with the way that O-line was playing. So I think there's multiple things to it. And just checking a look at the injury report here. I believe McDonald said that Kupp didn't practice Kupp practiced. Kupp is going to play. Ernest Jones was limited in some capacity. They didn't have a full practice today on Wednesday as I'm talking about this. They had kind of a walkthrough type thing, but Jones did limited participation. Josh Jobe, limited participation. Torrey Horton, limited participation. Kobe Bryant didn't participate. It was a personal matter, so he should be fine to go. Cooper Kupp, full participation. Sundell didn't participate. He's not going to be out there. And it says Gray's able limited, but he's probably going to be fine. But I mean, just out of those things, I think it's a big deal to have Ernest Jones back. I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball. Ernest Jones and Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe gives them. This is the team that recently, as the last few weeks, has wanted to play a little more dime, which means having only one linebacker in the game, adding the extra DB. And in the Commanders game, when they did it at the beginning of the game, before Joe went out with concussion, it was Emanori, it was Jobe, it was Witherspoon, it was Okada, it was Bryant, and it was Woolen. So that's 6. And then they had one backer and 4 defensive linemen. And they did it on like kind of long downs, but the Rams are a team that plays a lot of dime as well, and they kind of play. They have a really good run defense off of that. But last week against the Cardinals, they played dime, and they had no Josh Jobe, and they put Nehemiah Pritchett out there, and that's when Nehemiah Pritchett made that insane pass breakup on Marvin Harrison Jr., where he's in the air and he sees the ball and he punches it out. That was, I mean, one of the best pass breakups I've seen. I mean, that's what Nicky Manwari said in a locker room interview today. It was outstanding. And I think that was a great thing to have shown because I think that's something McDonald wants to do. So I wouldn't love to see Nehemiah Pritchett out on the field that much this weekend, but just having the comfortability to say, hey, if we want to go dime for this play, we can put him out there and not feel like he's a liability and taking away something that we want to do on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's really important. I think Ernest Jones is huge here because, I mean, if we know anything about Sean McVay, he is going to exploit his matchups. And I think this is a big game for Ty Okada. I think this is a big game for the 2 linebackers and Drake Thomas and Tyrese Knight. If Ernest Jones is not out there, I mean, I trust these guys. I trust the way McDonald has coached them. But McVay's going to make him work. He's going to make him think. He's going to do all the misdirection, all the type of things. He knows what they're keyed on. He's going to make this game as hard as he possibly can for the 2 middle linebackers who haven't played that much together. Drake Thomas being a Mike in this game is much different than Drake Thomas being a Mike in coming in the Commanders game, in the Cardinals game. It's a much different situation. The communication factor. It is a road game. Who knows? I feel like there could be a decent amount of Seahawks fans in there. It's still a road game, a hostile environment, a massive football game. And even having Ernest Jones out there just for the leadership factor, I think is huge. He's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. This is a team that traded him away when Aaron Donald said this guy was going to be the future of the defense. I know he wants to be out there. He tweets that GIF saying he like rising from the dead, and he deletes it a little bit after. I mean, he's gonna. There's nothing in my mind that says that he's not going to do everything he can to play in this game. But I think the key here is you can't let, I don't know, Devontae, let's check out the Los Angeles Rams injury report. Devontae Adams went out with it was some sort of an oblique thing last week at the end of the game. McVay said that Adams isn't going to practice today, but from everything that Devontae's told him, he's going to play, and he trusts him, he trusts the veteran. Other than that, they're pretty healthy. Kobe Turner didn't practice Wednesday's practice. He said they're questionable. Jordan Whittington is questionable. But the Rams are a pretty healthy team. This is two teams that are the Seahawks are. I'd say the Seahawks are decently healthy. But besides Jones, I mean, if Cup's going to play, Horton playing could be a big factor here because Cody White's a fine guy, but Jake Bobo practiced today. I'd rather have Torrey Horton out there, just kind of the explosiveness that he's shown. If I can see a rotation at receiver of Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, JSN. I mean, JSN's going to be on the field the whole game. And Torrey Horton, I mean, that would be awesome just for having the pure other ability to stretch the field other than JSN and Shaheed. Just, if those guys go underneath, you can send the guy up the sideline and trust that he's going to beat him. Because on the back end, or I guess I'll finish on the Rams offense side of the ball. I feel like this might be just kind of wrong for me, but I feel like Stafford's a guy that he is susceptible to turnover. And he's playing at an insanely high level this year. And he's playing at a really high level. And I got to say, that's something I didn't really expect because going in the season, the whole back thing, didn't participate in anything all summer. It was weird. It was a really, really weird situation. And the way that he's rebounded from it and kind of just, I mean, if you told me that all that was happening to me in the season, I wouldn't believe you because that's just, it's kind of crazy that happened in this season. He's thrown for 2,400 yards. He's thrown for 25 touchdowns. He's thrown for 2 interceptions. He's kept the ball out of harm's way. But I feel like sometimes it's there. And I feel like he's a guy that has a lot of dropped interceptions. And he's only been sacked 14 times this season. Only been pressured 91 times. Like I said, one of the lowest in the league. Darnold's only been pressured 66 times on a lot less dropbacks because they haven't had to drop back as much as Matthew Stafford. He's only dropped back 228 times or 228 attempts. Stafford has 210 attempts. I feel like they're there. And if Devontae doesn't go, which it just seems like he is going to go, the Rams are a team that has an increased rate of playing with 3 tight ends in the most recent weeks. And it's been a problem for some teams. Some teams haven't known how to match up with it because obviously they have Terrence Ferguson, Higbee, and Colby Parkinson. And it's been trouble for people. They've been lining up in all different places. Ferguson's been playing well. Stafford obviously trusts him. He trusts him down the sideline. Parkinson's been good in the intermediate. Higbee's just kind of that reliable tight end. I feel like this matches up well for the Seahawks. I mean, to have a guy like Nicky, you can play your nickel package, and it's technically your big nickel with Nicky Minori. He can guard any of those guys. I mean, I feel perfectly confident with him guarding any one of those Rams tight ends anywhere on the field. And if you want to play the dime and you can put whoever it is, you can put Woolen on a tight end or you can put one of those safeties. You can put Okada on a tight end. However you want to play it, I trust that. And even Drake Thomas. I mean, Drake Thomas is a smaller linebacker. He's quick. I feel like that's his strength, his agility. He can guard one of these guys one-on-one. He is a smaller guy, but if you're bringing pressure, which I think is the key to this game, you can't give Stafford all the time in the world because he's going to find guys open. He's going to fit balls into tight windows, and he's going to make his throws. If you can find pressure with rushing 4 and rushing 5 and not having to bring the house, which McDonald doesn't love to just send the house. He finds ways to get pressure. In that Arizona game is a perfect example. I mean, the Tyrese Knight, both those strip sacks, separate blitzes, Knight said, but they worked out the exact same and they looked the exact same, but just different reads. And obviously Stafford knows this. He's probably one of the more experienced quarterbacks in the league. You know he's up for it. But if the Seahawks D-line, if Leonard Williams, if Byron Murphy can wreak havoc in the middle and force Stafford to not be able to step into these throws and have someone undercut it or have not quite the time he wants to and has to put it out there earlier than he wants to and you make a play on it, that's the key to this game. You can't let him get comfortable back there because when Matthew Stafford gets locked in the zone, he's one of the more hard quarterbacks to beat in the league. When he gets locked in, he's borderline unstoppable. To the offensive side of the ball, the Seahawks need to take care of the football. There's only been one game this season where they haven't turned the ball over. And, I mean, I think that's the key to their success. The Buccaneers game, the Niners game, their 2 losses were from little margins. The turnovers at the end of the game, they had a chance to go down and win the game both those times. And the fluke little turnovers, Darnold hits the ball off Lucas's ass, and he throws the tip interception to the Buccaneers in the Buccaneers game. And just those that's games against 2 good teams. The Niners were very healthy in week 1. Those are the little margins, and you can't make those little. That might be the thing that wins or loses this game is a lucky turnover on either side of the ball, and they just have to they can't let that little fluke stuff control this game. They can't let it end in something like that, because that's just crushing. When you go all and the narrative in both those games is, oh, Sam Darnold isn't clutch. When I don't really know what he could have done about either of those things, but that's what it's going to look out to be. And if that's how it ends, that's what the narrative is going to be again, is, oh, he can't win the big game. And I know he doesn't want that to be. I mean, I'm sure he has a big chip on his shoulder after how the game ended last year, the Minnesota game. Completely different team, completely different thing overall. But still, the Seahawks are going to be without their starting center this week, Jalen Sundell. He's been doing this multiple weeks. I'm feel fine with Olu. I mean, Olu, I feel like, could have been the starting center this year. He got injured in training camp, and Sundell was too good in camp to give the job back, which is something you're always going to be okay with. But it's still going to be a little question mark. They had some snap issues when he came into the game. I think he's going to be fine. I think that's simply just him coming in, different quarterback center exchange. I'm not putting too much stock into that overall. The Seahawks are going to have to, they're going to have to be able to, they can't get themselves in a hole early. It feels like so often in these games against the Rams or against a big opponent, they kind of just fall behind. And I'm not saying this year, because obviously this year they've been great on the first drive, just kind of in the recent future. And if you go out there and you have a 3-and-out and you let Stafford go out and drive down and score, and you're in a 7-0 hole, that's just unnecessary pressure to have you on you. They've been really good on the first drive this year, and I think that has to continue this week. If you can go down and set the tone and say, we're showing up for this big game, that's a huge statement to walk into SoFi. And if it is going to be loud, I don't know what it's going to be like in there. That's a huge statement to make, and I think that's where this game starts. Other than that, I mean, personally, I think that the Rams' back half of their secondary is weak. I don't think that, I mean, the Rams have all these metrics. They're one of the best defenses in the league. I see it, but I don't think that the back half of their defense is that uber impressive. I mean, they have Kobe Durant, who's not graded very well on PFF. They have Emmanuel Forbes, who is a guy that was given away by the Washington Commanders, starting at cornerback. He was literally given away. He was bad. He was really bad. He's super small, able to be manipulated by receiver little movements. Every receiver on our team is going to be stronger than a guy like that. I think that's a matchup that can be exploited. And especially in the Rams team that has struggled to get pressure in the last few weeks, if they can give Darnold some time, bombs away. Let it fly to these guys, because the safety play, I think, is better. Cameron Curl is, I respect him a little more. He can make some plays in the back end. And Quentin Lake, they've both shown that they've had the ability to make those big plays, covering something over the back or coming down and making a big tackle. If you can get isolated with these corners one-on-one, I really like the matchup here. I really like the way that this ends up, because JSN over anyone, JSN's beating anyone over the top. And if you commit too much to JSN, which I assume they're going to have quite the game plan to stop him, he's been the best receiver in football. Rashid Shaheed is going to have space in this game. I think this is a big Rashid Shaheed game, because, I mean, Sean McVay, I don't think Sean McVay is going to be the guy that's going to let JSN walk over you and go for 150 or 200 yards. He did it last year. The Seahawks ended up losing the game. But I feel like he's going to have to make Darnold throw to other guys, not just Jason. And Jason's shown that that doesn't mean that Jason's going to have a bad day. I mean, I think Jason's probably going to go for at least, he's shown that he's kind of impossible to take out of the game plan. But if they expend a lot of a lot of those eyes, a lot of that pressure to taking away Jason over the top, this can be a big Rashid Shaheed day. This can be a big Cooper Kupp day. I mean, Cooper Kupp's got a lot. He says it's just another game. This is his old team. This is the team that he made his career on. This is the team that he won the Triple Crown on, had one of the best seasons as a receiver of all time on. There's going to be some emotions flying for him there. And I think he's going to be that safety net that Darnold needs over the middle. If they can have any success running the ball, I think the Seahawks are going to win this game. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game overall, but I think if they can have any success running the ball to make the Rams put an extra guy in the box and not extend that extra attention to Jason over the top, it's going to be a long day for LA. I'm going to wrap it up there. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game. I think that they're going to make a statement. I think they're going to be the consensus number one team in football going the next week into the rest of the season. I hope Ernest Jones can go. I hope Josh Jobe can go. I hope Troy Hart can go. I don't want this to be a thing where we didn't have these guys. We didn't have our middle linebacker. I don't want the excuses to be built in. I think this team is built for this. They're built for these road games. I think they win this game, and I'm damn excited to be there and see it. We'll get on to the rest of this slate now. On to the rest of the slate. We got a divisional battle, AFC East matchup. The New York Jets travel to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. It's a widespread sitting at 13.5 right now. And this is a game I think that it has the possibility to be an ugly close game. If we learned anything from Thursday Night Football this year, especially going back to last week, the Raiders went to face the Broncos. Everyone thought that would be a huge blowout, myself included. And the Raiders made it a close game and arguably should have won the football game. I don't necessarily know the Jets are going to win, but a 13.5 point division spread on a close week, a team coming off a victory. I believe a team coming off 2 victories in a row, one split up in a bye. Yeah, the Bengals and the Browns. I think there's nothing is really saying it should be close, but I have a feeling it's going to be close. On the Patriots side, Ramondre Stevenson is going to be out, missing this 3rd straight game. On the Jets side, Garrett Wilson's out, Azrae Thomas is out, the rookie cornerback. Will McDonald's sitting at questionable, and that's about it for the injury side for them. Checking out the Patriots for the rest of their report. Booty's out. Kayshon Boutte with a hamstring ruled out. Austin Hooper concussion. Ramondre Stevenson not going to go. Christian Ellis not going to go, and Joshua Farmer sitting at questionable. The defensive tackle there. So just kind of getting into this game, just kind of looking at the Patriots, their season as a whole, and what is kind of giving them struggles. They've gotten themselves into some trouble in some games where they have turned the ball over. In that Jets game, or not in the Jets game, in the Bills game, it was a game that if the Bills played anywhere near their potential, they should have won. It was sitting at 23-20, kind of a low-scoring game. In the Falcons game, for example, 2 turnovers there. The Falcons had a chance to win it. Should have went to overtime if they didn't miss a kick. Going all the way back to week 3 of the season, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they lose 21-14 because they turn the ball over 4 times. They get in these little ruts at times when the offense isn't as explosive as it is, or even in that Buccaneers game last week. This is a game that should have been put away in the Patriots' second to last drive, and Drake May throws a red zone interception. It was just unnecessary. They could have went up 8, could have scored a touchdown and put it as a 2-score game. And no, they threw an interception in the red zone that gave their opponent a chance to stay in the game. And I mean, who knows here? I'm going to keep going back to it. It's a short week. If the Jets can get a little few Mickey Mouse turnovers and keep themselves in the game and ride Breece Hall, because that's what they did last week, that the reason they won that, besides their special teams, obviously, Breece Hall was their best player by far last week. He had the long 42-yard receiving touchdown, ran the ball for 83 yards on 21 carries, and I mean, he was their only receiver with over 4 yards receiving. Justin Fields is going to have to step up in this game. His over-under line is 140 yards, which I think is the lowest I've ever seen for a professional quarterback in a game that's not like a snowball. Even that, maybe. But, I mean, I don't know what's making me feel this way. I think the Jets keep this one close. I don't think that they win this game, but I think they cover it inside the 13.5 and make the game a little more closer than Patriots fans want it to be. To Sunday, we'll go to Madrid, NFL first ever Madrid game. Washington Commanders take on the Miami Dolphins. This is a sad matchup, especially on the Commanders side, especially for the fans in Madrid, I should say, because they're going to their first ever football game. A lot of fans going to be coming in over there, and they're watching the 3-7 Washington Commanders versus the 3-7 Dolphins. Teams that beginning of the season, the Commanders, especially coming off that magical season last year, the Dolphins have the talent, Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins are in a bit of a better spot than the Commanders, obviously coming off that big divisional win, which sets them as favorites in this game. Sitting at -2.5 favorites, -150. The Commanders in that set down slot. You got Von Miller coming out during the week saying he wished he signed with the Seahawks, wanted to play with Jaden Daniels. That's not something you could say as a current player on the team, in my opinion. I just don't think that's necessarily the thing you want to be putting out there. Terry McLaurin's not going to play. I don't really know what's going on there. Treylon Burks, who was their leading receiver last week, out with a finger injury. Quan Martin sitting at questionable. Frankie Luvu, starting linebacker, sitting at questionable there. I like the Dolphins in this game. I think the Dolphins, it's going to be good weather. It says 50 degrees, overcast clouds in Madrid. The Dolphins blew up the Buffalo Bills last week. Devon Achane had his best game of the season by far, and they ran all over them. And that recipe to me, going to face a banged up old Commanders defense, is the exact recipe to winning this game. I mean, Achane went 22 carries, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, tagged along for 6 receptions and 51 yards. I think that's like the last thing you want to hear if you're a Commanders fan, is placing an explosive, fast running back. that just carved up the Buffalo Bills, which is a good team. I think that the Miami Dolphins run all over these guys. I think Tua, when he has a successful run game behind him, and we saw him last week. Tua was letting it fly last week. I do have to give him props on that, because that was kind of the thing, is like he wasn't taking really the shots downfield, but I think having that run game behind him allowed him to kind of feel some more confidence stretching the ball downfield. Just looking at Jalen Waddle's his route chart, he had multiple gains of over 40 yards, or at least one reception, but there was multiple attempts to push down the field as well. And looking at Tua's, he was taking shots, and he threw an interception. But as a 3-7 football team, take shots. Like, please do that. Mike McDaniel, there was that funny screenshot where he rolled up to the Bills bar in Miami after the game, drove by with his window down. I mean, people are hating on it. It's 3-7 football team, but that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a lifeless organization. I don't know if Mike McDaniel's the future of the Dolphins. I don't necessarily think he is. I think he's going to be a great offensive coordinator somewhere, but you want to see, it's just a fun thing to watch. I don't think many people are getting up to watch this game at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday, but who knows? I think the Dolphins are going to run all over these guys. No McLaurin for Washington. Marcus Mariota is going to be doing his best out there. I think this is a Dolphins win. Panthers versus Falcons, first of the 10 a.m. slate. Falcons are seeking redemption. Falcons are sitting at 3-6. Playoff percentages are probably in the dumps. In a competitive NFC, I think especially they're kind of in a position where they gotta win a lot of games out. But I mean, looking at the schedule, they're coming off 2 games that they by far should have won. They lost to the Patriots and they missed the extra point. The Colts game, they were in the game the whole time. They got the ball first in overtime. Failure to execute in big moments kind of has always been the thing for them, and they couldn't. They punted it back, and Jonathan Taylor won the game for the Colts. But they got the Panthers, Saints, Jets before they face the Seahawks, Bucks, Cardinals, Rams, Saints. They're in a spot where they got to win the next 3 in a row. Seahawks team will probably, then they got to win one of them, the next 2 between the Bucks and the Seahawks. Maybe beat the Rams. You can beat the Cardinals and the Saints. I mean, it's getting to it is pretty must-win. This is a must-win game for the Atlanta Falcons if they want to have any hopes of even being in the mix towards the end of the season. And I think that Raheem Morris is coaching for his job. I personally think he should be gone either way. Zach Robinson has to be gone by next season, but he's coaching for his job. I want to see some urgency. He always looks confused when he's on the sideline just looking at the guy. He always just has a look of just looking into the look of the look of doom and despair. He's just looking into the endless stare. On the Panthers side, is this a bad football team? Is this a good football team? I think I'm leaning more towards the side of if it's a bad one. Their wins, they've gotten wins in close games, but I mean the fact that they're 5-5 is it's really, really impressive because everyone thought this would be a really bad roster. I think Bryce Young. I don't think Bryce Young is the truth though. Everything we've seen from him is he's had multiple chances, and honestly, this year has been his best chance. He's had weapons around him. I mean, he has Tedero McMillan, Rico Dowdle's broken out as a pretty good running back, I'd say, but you can't show up against the 1-8 Saints in a position to put yourself at 6-4 and in the playoff mix and go 17 for 25 for 124 yards and an interception. That just isn't number 1 overall pick. That isn't winning quarterback football by any means. He's not pushing the ball down the field. He has 2 attempts over 20 yards last week. One was incomplete. One was complete over the middle. Or 3. He had a missed deep shot down the left side. Just checkdowns. You have to be able to push the ball down the field to some extent in the NFL. And Leggett probably isn't the greatest. He's looking like kind of a bust. Jalen Coker has 3 receptions for 21 yards last week. McMillan's a stud. I mean, he's got a guy that's produced every week he's been out there. He gets almost 60 yards every week. He's only had 1 week under 40, and that win against the Jets at 13-6. It just feels like there's too many just low-scoring, ugly games for the Carolina Panthers, and they found a way to win a lot of them. But you can't lose that game to the Saints and expect to be in a good spot and expect to be like a perennial playoff team. I just don't think they are, and their schedule's a lot harder than the Atlanta Falcons. They got the Falcons, Niners, Rams, Saints, Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. That's a lot tougher. It seems like they had the lighter half of their schedule at the start of the season. Atlanta's got to win this game. They're sitting at 3.5-point favorites. I like Atlanta in this game. I would hope that they can get the run game going a little bit. Bijan's had a few down weeks. Can we get them in the end zone too? There's no reason to be giving Algier all these carries, and I'd like to see Bijan just get 80% of these carries because seeing Tyler Algier on my screen in unnecessary moments, it's not like when Bijan's super exhausted. It's just super annoying as a viewer to watch. Buccaneers, Bills, 2 teams coming off pretty disappointing games, I'd say. The Bucs lose at home. Bucs have kind of sputtered their last 3 weeks, lose a home game to the Patriots they were favored in. And the Buffalo Bills coming off an absolutely embarrassing loss to the Miami Dolphins. Buccaneers, good sign for them. Looks like Bucky Irving has a chance to play this week. He was spotted at practice. He's sitting at doubtful, but just the fact that he was spotted at practice means he hopefully gets to play in the next few weeks. Chris Godwin sitting at doubtful. Vita Vea sitting at questionable. They're going to need him this week to stop the James Cook rushing attack. Hassan Reddick sitting at questionable. Antoine Winfield Jr. sitting at questionable as well. That would be another big loss. It's just a team that has been killed by injuries all year long. Ben Bredesen, the starting guard, hamstring, is sitting at questionable. He was ruled out from the last game against the Patriots midway through. They have just been absolutely decimated by injuries all season. And they answered the bell a lot of times early in the season, and it feels like lately the injuries are just kind of catching up to them. They didn't really, like, Baker hasn't really been playing like Baker Mayfield recently. And he hasn't been playing bad. I mean, he goes for 28 for 43 for 3 touchdowns last week, but he hasn't been scrambling as much. And those are the plays that make him, he's obviously an upper tier quarterback in the NFL, but those are the plays that make it like, I want Baker Mayfield on my team in a big moment. And he didn't really have any last week. You can attribute that to a good game plan by the Patriots, and also attribute to he might be a little bit banged up. For the Bills, this game is going to tell me something about the Bills, because you can't have such a high of beating the Chiefs at home and then have such a low of getting embarrassed by the Dolphins on the road. In that fashion, too, you got ran all over by the Miami Dolphins. And whether it's Rashad White or whether it's Sean Tucker, or if it is Bucky Irvin, if he does somehow play, you're going to have to step up and answer the call. They're going to run the football at you and try to beat you with these explosive plays on the field that the Miami Dolphins had success with. Emeka Egbuka is going to be pushing the ball down the field. They got Tez Johnson, who's really emerged as a really reliable weapon for Baker Mayfield. He goes 4 receptions for 58 yards last week. K. Otton's a good guy underneath. Even without these guys like Mike Evans, these guys like Chris Godwin, this is a pretty good passing team through the air with the weapons that Baker has and his ability to get them the ball. Emeka had 6 receptions last week for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. That's not going to slow down. I mean, he's the number 1 receiver on this team right now, and even when those guys return, I mean, those guys are on the upper edge in age, and Evans and Godwin. This is the Emeka Egbuka run offense, and it's a scary offense when it's clicking well. The Bills need to get back and running the football. I don't know why. I mean, I get you fell behind really early, but giving James Cook 13 carries, and they were a decently successful 13 carries for 53 yards, not getting Allen involved on the ground more for 4 carries for 31 yards. I think it's inexcusable. I think they know that. They said they weren't going to bring Brian Dable back. I don't even know if that's something that Brian Dable would be interested in coming back on as like an assistant advisor role. I think they should. That offense looked the best that it ever had when he was at the helm of it. But they got to bounce back. And it's like, seems like the Bucs just forget the Bills just forget who they are sometimes. They have these games where they go into these ruts and they don't give James Cook the football in big moments, and they can't complete the big pass when Allen, he's scrambling. He can't necessarily find the guy. He has these 2 bonehead turnovers last week that just look like the old Josh Allen from his first few years in the league. I don't understand it. They got to lock back in. I see this one being a close game, to be honest. I think the Bucs, Todd Bowles going to have a good defensive plan for Josh Allen. The defense has been playing well all year. If they have Winfield and if they have Vita Vea, I see this one keeping it close. And I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. Texans, Titans. I think it's going to be the Davis Mills-led Texans this week. C.J. Stroud sitting at questionable. He was in the building on Monday as they prepare for the game against Tennessee. I don't see any reason to rush him back. Obviously, it's a concussion, so it's one of those things, if you're ready, you're ready. I thought Mills did fine. You're facing the Titans. You don't want to have him take a hit and kind of put him out for a prolonged period of time. And especially in that fourth quarter, I saw Davis Mills played a great game. He threw for 300 yards. Wasn't the best early in the game, but I mean, just look at this production. This is Nico Collins' arguably the best game of the year. 15 targets, 7 receptions, 136 yards. One of my favorite things in the NFL is when a backup quarterback comes in and he just feeds the star players. And that's what he did. He fed Nico Collins. He fed Dalton Schultz, who's been one of their better weapons all year. 7 receptions, 53 yards. You got the 2 rookie receivers tagging along. Jaden Higgins, 5 for 42, 1 touchdown. Jalen Noel, 4 for 35. Both those guys, the Iowa State guys, who were drafted in that second round, both contributing on a team that needs to win games. I'm chalking this one as a win against the Titans. In the NFL, nothing's a given, but I think it's a must-win game, especially with the gauntlet these guys have coming up. They got the Bills, Colts, and Chiefs in back-to-back-to-back weeks. And the Bills is on Thursday night, so I think that's another reason why you don't rush Stroud back. You hope he's back to the Bills game. Give him some time to extrally prepare for that. And trust Davis Mills, who you extended as a backup. It's a great story, in my opinion. A guy who started on the team for 2 years, showed that he wasn't going to be the future franchise quarterback. Instead of going to another bad team and trying to fight for a job, he stuck around, and they extended him. And he's one of the best, most quality backups in the league. He's a big guy in figure. He delivers in big moments. Obviously, that touchdown run to win the game, and I thought that was really impressive going back on it because they got behind the sticks. They got to a 3rd and goal from the 14 after a penalty and screwing it up, getting stuck on the 5-yard line. They got to the 2-yard line. Excuse me. They got to the 2-yard line on 1st and goal with a minute to go, and they took a false start. They took a negative rush yard, another 5-yard penalty, and then an incomplete pass. And I was like, this game, I don't see them being able to put this in. And he uses his legs, scrambles to the left, gets in the end zone, and wins them a massive game that puts them in a great spot. Or not a great spot, but considering where they started this season, it puts them in a very manageable spot to sneak into the playoffs in an AFC that's not as strong as the NFC. So give me a win for the Texans. Give me Davis Mills to continue feeding Nico Collins. Up next, this is a huge game. The Chicago Bears go to take on the Minnesota Vikings. A revenge game for the Bears. Revenge game for that week 1 loss. Bears at 6-3. A chance to get to 7-3 for the Chicago Bears. Going to take on the Vikings who are 4-5, 1-3 at home. Coming off that loss last week, they just left a bad taste, I feel like, in a lot of Vikings fans' mouths. McCarthy's limited with the hand bruise. I think he's going to play through that, but you never want your starting quarterback limited. Aaron Jones is questionable. Jonathan Bernard is questionable with a shoulder injury. Josh Oliver questionable. On the Chicago Bears side, we got Tyreek Stevenson questionable, Cole Kmet questionable, Roma Dunze did not practice Wednesday, DJ Moore didn't practice Wednesday, DeAndre Swift didn't practice Wednesday, Quan Brisker didn't practice Wednesday with a questionable injury, TJ Edwards questionable, Jedi Walker receiver questionable. They need some of these guys to play. I feel like they're being a little cautious with Moore and Dunze. They both finished that game. Swift finished that game. He was limited on Wednesday. Kmet limited. The Kmet thing's fine because I think Colston Levin has really started to emerge as the number 10 overall pick that you wanted him to be, that you drafted him to be, that people doubted the decision, but you drafted him and he's become a big in stature third down target or big down target for Caleb Williams. And I think that's important because Rome's a guy that can go catch a 50-50 ball, but Caleb, a guy that throws with so much velocity, if you're a little bit off, it makes those balls a little bit harder to catch. A big target like Loveland, who I believe sits around 6'5", let me check that. A big guy like that you can put the ball in the air to get over those defenders. There was multiple times in the game where you're throwing an out route, there's a guy underneath covering the flat, and he puts it in the air, and Loveland goes up and snatches the ball. And that's what you want for a young quarterback, a big guy you can throw the ball to, 6'6". He's really emerging as a great receiving tight end. And for the Vikings, this is if McCarthy loses this game at home, it might get to not scary conversations. Obviously, it's his first year starting, but they got the Packers and the Seahawks coming up after that. This would put them at 4-6, a team that had 14 wins last year with Sam Darnold, got rid of their quarterback to start J.J. McCarthy. Some uncomfy conversations could started to be had that in the Minnesota fan base. I think they can have success in this game. I think KOC needs to commit to running the football. Because going back to that week 1 game, they did it a little bit, but it wasn't to the volume that I think it should have been. I mean, they had a lot of unsuccessful drives in that first half that limited the kind of the snap count that they had. But Jordan Mason was 15 carries for 68 yards, and McCarthy threw those 2 interceptions. Last week, however, I think a big reason they lost the game was they abandoned running the football. This was a game that was close for majority of the game, and Aaron Jones had 9 carries for 47 yards. Jordan Mason had 4 for 25. McCarthy was your leading rusher with 48 rushing yards on 5 carries. There was no need for that. And you have to find a way to get Justin Jefferson the ball. Like I don't care who your quarterback is. Justin Jefferson should not be having 4 receptions on 12 targets. It just shouldn't be happening. You have to find easy ways to give him the ball. You have to dial up deep shots for him. You have weapons, him or Addison. They can't cover both of them down the field. Run the ball, set up the play action game, and you give yourself a chance to win this game. I think Kevin O'Connell has to be great for them to win this game. But this is a Bears defense that has been susceptible to being given up big chunk drives down the field. When they don't force turnovers, they have struggled on defense. So I think the key for the Minnesota Vikings has to be giving yourself second and third and manageable. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give Caleb Williams and his team a short field. Make them drive the length of the field against your defense that's going to get after him, that he struggled with early in week 1. He has that opening drive, touchdown drive, and then they get the pick 6. And Caleb really struggled in this game. He was 21 to 35 for 210 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Swift had an all right day, but they kind of bottled him up on the ground, 17 for 53. Caleb was the leading rusher in that game, 6 for 58. His legs continued to become more and more of a weapon for this team as they move on. Just because his ability to extend plays and find people open is going to be important because the Vikings are going to blitz him. They're going to get after him. He's going to have to make a man miss in the pocket or like a man miss in the pocket. And all he has to do, I think, is just find the dump down. He doesn't have to make a man miss and fire it 4 yards down the field, which he's so good at. He's made multiple great throws doing that last week that didn't end up in catches. He just has to escape and find the guy open because when they blitz, someone will be open. He just has to have the ability to find that. And I think he's really coming along. He's one of the more clutch quarterbacks in the league this year. It seems like every time they've needed him to make a play, he has. And I think the Bears get this done. An underdog spot for the Bears, which I think is a weird one, and I like them in this game. We got the Green Bay Packers going to take on the New York Giants. And as of today, this game has got a whole lot more interesting because after the Brian Daboll firing, Mike Kafka has named Jameis Winston the starting quarterback of the New York Giants in relief of Jackson Dart while he's injured. And all I got to say is finally. There was no reason for it to take this long to have Jameis get in the game. There was multiple moments when Russ comes to fill in and he just looks incompetent out there. And even starting the season, he had his game in Dallas where he threw for 400 yards. But besides that, it was just boredom. It was not good quarterback play. It was Russ looking for something, checking it down. Russ trying to think he was back in his prime, running around. Nothing there. Didn't have the speed he used to have. And Jameis Winston is going to do what a backup quarterback should do. He's going to go in there and sling it. He might throw for 300 yards on Sunday. He might throw 3 picks. He might throw 4 picks. He might throw 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But it's going to be entertaining. He's going to get your guys the ball. It's not going to be a slog of 3 and out, just no signs of life at all. Like they don't have many weapons right now with all the injuries that they've had. But I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson's going to get fed. Darius Slayton's probably going to get fed. It makes it a little more interesting. And on the Packers side, this is a must-win game, dare I say. You can't go back-to-back. You can't lose 3 games in a row to the Panthers, Eagles, and Giants. That puts you at 5-4. I believe currently they're actually in a tie with the Chicago Bears for the division. They're actually below the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are at 6-3. They're tied with the Detroit Lions. The Green Bay Packers are at 5-3-1, below them. I mean, that's just a wild thing to see at this point in the season. The Vikings are at the bottom at 4-5, but a very, very competitive division all around. The spread sitting at 7.5 points. Is it weird I like the Giants in this game? If it was Russ, I think this would be a clear-cut Packers victory. But Jameis is going to threaten them. Jameis isn't going to be scared to let it fly. And if the Packers offense continues to struggle and against a good D-line that can stop the run, they stopped the Bears run game pretty well last week. They could get into some real trouble. I need to see Jordan Love have a game. I don't care who he's throwing the ball to. This is a lower tier team that you're playing against right now. Your run game probably, I feel like, is going to get swallowed up a little bit. I need to see Jordan Love have a football game. I need to see Matt LaFleur call a good football game. Otherwise, my opinions on the Packers aren't going to change. My opinions on the Packers are very low right now. There's some play calling controversy. Should Matt LaFleur be calling plays? Should he not be? Is he on the hot seat? Which it seems like he is. There's a lot of pressure on these guys. So what happens here? They need to have a statement. I need to see a statement Packers win. Even if they win this game and it is a close game that comes down to the end, that's like arguably makes this worse because you'd think that they're going to snap out of this rut at some point, but they just haven't shown no signs of any positivity in these last 2 weeks. Not really ever since that big win against Pittsburgh on Sunday night, to be honest. And something needs to change. Something needs to change in Green Bay. If they have a bad week this week, I wouldn't be surprised to see LaFleur give up play calling duties. But this is a massive game for any Packers like future playoff implications because they cannot continue to put on these performances that they're putting on right now. Bengals Steelers. Joe Burrow's return to practice. He's not going to play this week, but he's eyeing a Thanksgiving return, and that means that it's must tread water / must win time for Joe Flacco. And this is a game that they won 33-31 a few weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. And I don't think you can catch the Steelers at a better time. This is a Steelers team that's struggling right now. They had that win over the Colts, but it was aided by all those turnovers the defense forced. This offense is in a rut. I think this was the worst game that I've seen Aaron Rodgers play in his the entire time I've ever watched Aaron Rodgers play football last week against the Los Angeles Chargers. He was missing wide open guys. It's not that there was no one there. He's just missing them. And a failure to establish the run game, a failure of DK Metcalf to get open in big moments, to make big catches, to make big contested catches, to be a reliable number one target that Aaron Rodgers wants him to be, just isn't there. The offense was just all out of whack, and the defense kind of got ran over. The Chargers ran for 100 yards. This is a must-win game for the Bengals. They got the Patriots after this and the Ravens. You think that you want Burrow to be back by Thanksgiving against the Ravens, and if you're 3-7, 3-8, what's the point of him even coming back? You got to win this game if you want to have a shot at it, and I think there's a real shot here. I think that the Bengals offense, I mean, Flacco's he's gonna give these guys the ball. He's gonna threaten them downfield, and I think they can get him there. The Chargers had some success. McConkey made some tough plays. McConkey made some good plays with times running after the catch, and that really helped him out there. But I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers played good coverage for the most part. Besides the fact, I mean, they got ran all over. Chase Brown's gonna have to have a successful day. Just going back to that Thursday night football game. Flacco threw for 340 yards, didn't turn the ball over. I think that's a big thing. If they don't turn this ball over, they forced 2 Rodgers turnovers, which were kind of lucky interceptions, but they still forced them. This was a successful game on offense for both teams. Both teams were able to run the football well, and I think that's the key for both of them. This was the big Jamar game, 16 receptions, 161 yards. But if the Bengals can not give the Steelers short fields with an offense that's struggling, I think that's the key to success for them. Just looking at this AFC playoff picture, the 7 seed sitting at 5-4. It's going to be tough for any of these teams to get in, whoever doesn't win the division. But if they want to go on a little sneaky run when Burrow gets back, it starts with winning this game. I think I like the Bengals to win this game. This Steelers team just has never screamed Mike Tomlin Steelers all year, quite honestly, when I've been thinking about them. And I don't like my thought on them isn't going to change. We're too far into the season where I think they can have a full identity change. That's just not what this team is at quarterback, at receiver, and nowhere. Give me the Bengals in this game to pull off another upset. Los Angeles Chargers go to Jacksonville, take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites on the road, sitting at 7-3. Jaguars are at 5-4. Well, what a disappointment from the Jaguars. This was a team that was at the highest of highs. So maybe they've been in years since that AFC Championship game. After that Monday Night Football winning at the Chiefs, sitting at 4-1. And since then, it's just been a downhill spiral. They lose to the Seahawks by 8. They get blown out by the Rams. Barely beat the Raiders in a game they probably should have lost. And they're up by 3 scores against the Texans going into the fourth quarter. And you get outscored 26-0 in the fourth quarter. That's inexcusable. It can't happen. And how do they bounce back from that? With what Travis Hunter is out for the year with a knee injury, he got knee surgery. I don't know what to really read from there. He's not a bust. I mean, it's 1 year. He showed some flashes. It's kind of frustrating. He wasn't really able to assert himself on one side of the ball. It was kind of felt like he was just feeling himself out on both sides of the ball and couldn't really get into a rhythm on either side. And I hope that they come into next year with a better plan because the injury was always a concern with him playing on both sides of the ball. It's a weird knee injury. I don't think it really has to do with the two-way stuff. But, I mean, it still happened, and that's still a very valid concern if you're a Jaguars fan. On the side of this game, though, I think that this is a really, it's hard to say easy win, but I really like the Chargers in this game. I was skeptical if they'd be able to run the football last week against the Steelers with no alt, but they ran it successfully. Just checking out these grades here. I wonder how Penning graded out. But Vidal had almost 100 yards. It seemed like the run showed up in a big moment every time they needed a big run. Kamani Vidal graded out as the highest on the offense at the 77. Trey Pipkins graded out at a 60. I mean, nothing really great here, but it just seemed like the overall success of the run game was there. And that's what they're going to need to build on, because that game showed me that when the passing offense isn't thriving at full force, if you can win a gritty, close football game like that, I feel like that's a game that the Chargers would have lost in the last few years. So them to win that tells me a lot. And Trevor Lawrence, I don't know how to feel about Trevor Lawrence. I've never loved it. He shows flashes at times, but he goes 13-23 for 158 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I mean, looking back on that game last week, a lot of the Jaguars' points were early in that game when they got those turnovers. It's not like they were putting out these long, sustainable drives like they were gashing the Texans' defense. That's just not what was happening. And the Chargers played a good game against the Steelers. I mean, just checking out these pressure numbers, they kind of got after Rodgers a little bit. They had 17 pressures, 3 sacks. It felt like he was just uncomfortable all day. Anytime some sort of pressure was there, he's like kind of balled up and threw an inaccurate pass. I don't know if that's what you're going to get with Lawrence, but Lawrence is definitely a guy you can force some of these weird turnovers off of, and I think that's the key to the game for the Chargers. I think the Chargers win that game. On the 1 o'clock slate, 49ers, Cardinals. 49ers sitting at 2.5-point favorites. Brock Purdy's return, his first game since that loss to the Jaguars in week 4, when they kind of rushed him back. He wasn't 100%, and he's missed the last 6, and Mac Jones has been good. He has been a very, very valid replacement. If Brock Purdy comes out and makes some of those weird mistakes that Purdy makes, or he misses some of those throws, overshoots him, floats him over the middle, there's going to be some awkward conversations. It's going to be like, why do we pay this guy $60 million a year when Mac Jones, we brought in, has been durable? He's been there all year. He's stood it under pressure. He's been clutch. Something that Purdy hasn't necessarily done. And this is a Cardinals team that's coming off of a embarrassing loss to the Seahawks on the road. The Seahawks are a great team, but the Cardinals were a team that everyone said, oh, they play teams tough. They play teams win and got dominated. They should have lost that game by 40, if not for some boneheaded turnovers in the second half by the Seahawks. It looks like there's going to be no Marvin Harrison this week. He has appendicitis. He's missing at least a week, so that's unfortunate for him. So they're going to have to feed McBride. And the one thing I know about Jacoby Brissett is he's going to feed his guys. I think they can have success in this game. I think, honestly, I can see a little rust coming from Purdy. I'm not sure if Ricky Pearsall is going to play in this game. I saw a report that he was going to practice. And let's check this out. He's practicing. He's questionable. Return to practice Wednesday. Practice in full. Purdy was limited but aggressive participant, according to Shanahan, with the intention to start. D. Winters, limited participant. Alfred Collins, limited participant. Sitting questionable. Still no Ayuk. I don't know what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. It's a really weird situation for him. On the Cardinals side, Will Hernandez questionable. Jonah Williams questionable. Evan Brown questionable. Walter Nolan questionable. Limited participant in practice. Will Johnson. Max Melton. They need some of these cornerbacks back. They cannot trot out whoever their backups were. They need Max Melton back. They need Will Johnson back to make things hard on Brock Purdy. Make him have to try to play out of script, something he hasn't done in 6 weeks. You're not playing really out of script, and you're coming in practice, going through a walkthrough, and force some of those Purdy turnovers on a Cardinals defense that has been scrappy besides that last week against the Seahawks when they got embarrassed. But they're missing a few corners. You got to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they can have Nolan, if they can have Harrison or Johnson and Melton, I think this game could be close. I would have to give the benefit of the doubt to the Niners, as they've shown they can pull out these clutch wins. But don't be surprised to see the Cardinals win this game. Ravens, Browns. Ravens 7.5-point favorites, and all of a sudden there's a little bit more questionability with Lamar Jackson. He's sitting at questionable and missed practice. They said he should be fine, but that's not what you want to see as a Ravens fan. The Ravens are hot. We've won 3 in a row after sitting at 1-5, sitting at 4-5 now. Got a kind of a long injury report. Isaiah Likely questionable, Keaton Mitchell questionable, Justice Hill, Malachi Starks, Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman. You got to hope that most of these guys are going to play. Marlon Humphrey's not going to go. He's going to be out. And it's another big divisional game. And the Cleveland Browns, a divisional game in this division is never something you can overlook, because the Cleveland Browns are going to play you scrappy. With Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, though, I don't see, there's no reason they should lose this game. Dylan Gabriel has shown zero ability to push the ball down the field. I'm going to say it week in and week out. I can say the same thing if I'm talking about a Browns game every week. It's Dylan Gabriel is going to be the starting quarterback. He can't push the ball down the field. He's inaccurate in times when he should be accurate. He doesn't process the field fast enough. He throws bad interceptions. There's no velocity on his throws. He can't see over the line of scrimmage. There's so many wrong things. It's the fact that I hope they get embarrassed in this game. I hope the Cleveland Browns get absolutely embarrassed. The spread's 7.5. I hope they lose by 20. And I hope that get him out. He's not a starting level quarterback. Start the guy who's a perennial, should have been a first round pick, and see what you got. You're going to draft one anyway. It's just frustrating every week. I no matter if Lamar plays or not, if Snoop Huntley's the one in relief, I hope the Ravens roll the Cleveland Browns. Up next, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Denver Broncos. Will the Broncos lose the game at home? This is a big test here. this is a big game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are like they're one of the co-favorites to win the Super Bowl, and they're sitting at 5-4. They're not even in a playoff spot at the moment. They're in the 8th spot. The Jaguars are in the 7th. So like obviously, I think the Chiefs are going to make playoffs, but this is a big game to win. I mean, I'd say the schedule kind of favors them as it comes down to it. They got Denver, Indianapolis, Dallas, Houston, Chargers, Tennessee, Denver, Vegas. I mean, Dallas is a game you should win. Chargers is a game you could go back and forth, but you're at home. Tennessee, Vegas. So that's 3, I'd say. And then you got the 3 divisional games against the Broncos, and Chargers. Houston is a game you should win too if you're at home. It's a massive one. And I think it's a game where I think the Broncos get exploited in this game. I think that Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And with everything we've seen from Bo Nix recently, he's shown me nothing to show that he can overcome good defenses. I mean, he puts up 18 points against the Texans. That's a good defense. Puts up 10 against the Raiders. He had a good game against the Dallas Cowboys. Had a majority pretty poor game against the Giants. A great fourth quarter. A poor game against the Jets. The Chiefs defense isn't the Chiefs defense that it has been in past years, but this is the Chiefs offense that's not going to let them hang around in a game if their offense is fluttering. If Sean Payton and Bo Nix don't come out and bring it and put the pressure on, they go back and forth in this game, and they have a few 3-and-outs. Bo has a few dumb interceptions. This is a game they're going to fall behind early, and they're not going to have the juice to come back and get the stops in the Chiefs offense because the Chiefs offense is explosive. I think the bye week after the Bills game is good for them. That's really their first reality check since Rashee Rice came back. They've been kind of full healthy. Getting ready for a big divisional matchup from the Colts after this. It's the big stretch for this team. I think the Chiefs win this game. Bo's going to have to prove something because if he keeps playing how he has been playing recently, I think the Chiefs win that game pretty easily on the road, even though it's in Denver. Sunday Night Football, a big game. Detroit Lions go on to face the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a big game for seeding purposes. The Lions are sitting at 6-3. The Eagles are sitting at 7-2. Eagles are favorites. They're at home. But this Dan Campbell offensive called Lions team, I like it. I like the vibes from the Detroit Lions right now. I hated them after the Vikings game, but just having Dan Campbell at the helm seems like the team was just in more, it's weird to say in control. It seems like the players were happier. Everyone was more involved. After the game, they all the players loved it. I think that can be a real flip switch. And a lot of people think of Dan Campbell as just this meathead coach. I mean, myself included, but he called a great game. And it is against the Commanders defense. So this is going to be a tough test against this Eagles defense that shut down the Packers. But I love the in cooperation of everyone. J-Mo isn't just a big play threat. J-Mo can catch the ball underneath and run in the end zone. J-Mo can have 5 receptions in a game. Amon-Ra isn't just a volume guy. Amon-Ra and Laporta aren't just the volume guys. Getting everyone involved in that game, it makes the Lions so much scarier because you have to be worried about everyone at every single down. The running backs are split up, but Gibbs still has a huge day, but Montgomery still has a role in the offense. I think it's a big flip switch for the Lions. And on the Eagles side, they won the game on Monday night, but watching them on offense is so frustrating. I mean, A.J. Brown, it seems like every week is ranting. He says trade him on. He's a horrible fantasy player. He is not sorry for saying what he said. Like I understand why he's mad, but you're on a 7-2 football team. Some stuff just has to stay in house. And Devontae Smith has been the better receiver on the team this year. Like I understand the volume. Okay, it might not be there for you, A.J. Brown, but Devontae has been better than you this year. All of their big plays have come from Devontae Smith. At some point, you have to assert yourself. Like it feels like every drive, it's either they get themselves. They're so passive, and they don't need to be. I mean, Hurts shows it. He shows that he can make the big throws under pressure. He can make the big throw to Devontae Smith over the middle, but they just like they don't. I don't know if they don't trust him. Kevin Patullo doesn't trust him. It's weird because it feels like if they get into a 3rd and 8 or longer, they're just going to hand it off and be fine with punting. And their defense is great, so they can do that. But in a game against the Lions, an offense that is surging, an offense that is hot, it's not going to. This isn't going to be a 10-7 Packers game, and that might come back, and it might be that. But I'm going to be very surprised if that's what this game looks like, because the Lions are going to put up points consistently. They're not going to go in ruts where they put up 7 points the entire game. I just don't see that from them. I like the Lions in this game. I understand this on the road, but this is going to be a vastly different game than the Eagles just played on Sunday night. And I think that kind of plays to the Lions' favor because This isn't going to be a drawn-out defensive battle at all. We'll go to the college side before we wrap up the show, and it's a big weekend for playoff implications. We got Oklahoma going to Alabama, and a must-win game for Oklahoma to stay alive. A 6.5-point spread. The spread is dropping. People like some stuff with Oklahoma there. We got Iowa USC, effectively a playoff eliminator for USC. Iowa is eliminated at 6-3 after that tough loss to Oregon, which we'll talk about for a second right now. That was a game that, man, that would have been a legendary moment in Iowa history. That would have been a really, really fun moment in Iowa history. They had it. They had the big play that they scored to go up with a minute to go. They go up a point. The quarterback hits the 6-7 emote, and it's rocking in Kinnick. And Dante Moore delivered. I got to give him props because that throw that he made down the sideline, the whole shot he threw was, he's not going to win the Heisman. That was a Heisman level throw. That was an absolute dime. This was an Iowa football game, 16-18. They go behind with a safety early in the game. Weird special teams. Both quarterbacks there for under 150. Good running the football on both sides. It was a classic Iowa game, and it should have ended in an Iowa victory. I mean, they outscored them 9-3 in the fourth quarter, but Dante Moore delivered in the big moment, and the Oregon kicker made a kick in the big moment. So you got to give him props to that. That's a big win for Oregon. Iowa, I don't think it was ever meant to be with Iowa, but that would have made things a whole lot more interesting, especially this week against USC. What else happened last week? Virginia loses to Wake Forest, where Virginia had been flirting with it for a while. I thought that I could kind of see that coming. I believe I actually said that. I thought Wake Forest could win that game. Another ACC loss. Cal has a big win over, I believe it was Louisville, if I'm checking this out right. Yeah, over Louisville, number 15th ranked team in the country. 14th ranked ACC team and 15th ranked ACC team both lose. JKS is an absolute star. Some of those, he just throws the ball so effortlessly. I have to wonder if he's going to transfer after this year or stick it out at Cal, because that guy can get as much money as he wants from any program in the country. BYU versus Texas Tech. The Big 12 is not good. Texas Tech kind of exposed what I've been waiting to see exposed from BYU, but they're not great. BYU's never had it, and I kind of just hope that they don't win the rematch in the Big 12 championship if they right the ship, because I don't know that I want to see that game again. I feel like it plays out pretty similar. Indiana Penn State. Almost forgot to touch on this. What a game this was. I thought this was the moment for Penn State. I was going to be really happy for Penn State that they could pull this out. But Fernando Mendoza, he delivers the Heisman moment. I mean, that play he made, Penn State was just blitzing him. They were just getting after him. And they were making good plays. The DBs were making good plays on the ball, and he just throws him towards the back of the end zone. Looks like a throwaway. And the absolute body control, the guy's trying to push him out of the end zone. The body control to get that left foot down was special. I don't know how. When I see him in the air and it's like going through a slow motion, I'm like, oh, this has to be incomplete. He gets his foot down, makes the play, keeps him undefeated. That was just a great play. Gus Johnson losing his voice. That was fun. Anything else? The Huskies, I don't really want to talk about the Huskies. That was an embarrassing loss. You can't perform like that on the road. You practically gifted one of the worst offenses in the entire country a win because Damon fumbles and gives them a touchdown, their only touchdown of the game, and you miss a field goal. Or you choose to kick a 55-yard field goal instead of going for it, but you go for it in other situations. Just stupid. Damon threw a dumb interception in the first half. It didn't result in anything, but just stupid turnovers. Just absolutely stupid turnovers. And this is the worst team in the Big Ten. They had zero conference wins, and you literally gifted their leading passer was their punter on a fake punt with 24 yards. They did for 48 yards and they beat you. It's absolutely inexcusable. They got kind of ran on their throat. 47 carries, 157 yards. It was an embarrassing game. That's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about that. The Huskies play Purdue this week. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things for the whole college football talk. But on the rest of this week, massive game for Oklahoma. Oklahoma, if they win this game, they're in a spot to make that one of those last playoff spots, because they have Missouri and LSU, two unranked teams, two ranked teams that have kind of just lost in the last few weeks. LSU is obviously on this horrible downhill trajectory this year after they fired Kelly, but Missouri lost last week. And it's just sneaky for Oklahoma because Alabama, I think they're locked to make the playoff. They have Oklahoma, an out-of-conference game in the Iron Bowl. And I think if they're at 2 losses probably going into the SEC championship, I think they probably get in. Don't quote me on that. But I would think so. And in Oklahoma, they have to win the line of scrimmage. What I've seen from Oklahoma in their bad games that they've struggled in, they have gotten kind of pushed around at the point of attack. And this is a defense that was touted as a really highly ranked defense going into that Texas game. And since then, they've played some better opponents, and they've shown that maybe they aren't that great of a defense. They were kind of carried by kind of a rougher schedule there. So they have to bounce back. They have to bounce back. I don't know that they do. I wouldn't be surprised to see this game keep it close, though. Another must-win game, Texas, Georgia. This is a fun one. Georgia's 5.5-point favorites at home. Texas has kind of found their stride ever since that huge comeback win against Mississippi State. I mean, they beat Vandy in a close one. They've had they had a week off last week. That Mississippi State game with the comeback, the arch comeback after his concussion protocol, that might have sparked something with Texas. And Georgia is too. Like, don't make this as like Georgia's in a bad spot. Georgia's playing great football right now. They blew the doors off Mississippi State last week after a close win against Florida. But they've had times this year where they kind of have looked beatable. And if Texas comes out and gives them their best game, I can see them hanging around. And this is the Texas team that was the number one ranked team in the country to start the season for a reason. They got Georgia and A&M. There's been talks if they're to have 3 losses because of the quality of the losses. I don't like it. I feel like if they lose 3 times, they should be out. But if they beat Georgia and they go into the A&M game ranked top 8 and lose it, who knows? I mean, the A&M game's also at home. So that's definitely a game that you might be favored in if you beat Georgia here. A lot of playoff implications, a lot of fun games. Just to look at, Clemson, Louisville's a decent one. That's an upset spot for Louisville, and the ACC is honestly just wide open. You got Duke, Virginia. Duke's favored in that game, and Duke has 4 losses, but they're 4-1 in the ACC. They could make the ACC championship and make the playoff, which would just be a ludicrous scenario. So some fun game is TCU, BYU. I think it's a real track game for BYU. Only 4.5-point favorites. TCU has some explosiveness on offense. Josh Hoover, Jordan Dwyer. They have studs all over the place on our end. Eric McAllister. They can throw the ball around, and I think that's kind of the last thing that BYU team wants to face. But some good matchups there, big playoff implications as each of the weeks have come with. But yeah, that's going to end the show. Going to the Seahawks game on Sunday. Super excited about that. Show will probably be out Monday because I'm going to get back from LA on Sunday night. But check out the socials. Diego Colley FB show. Been posting power rankings weekly. Interact with those. Give it a follow on both platforms. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Hopefully talking about a Seahawks W.